picks up a first down.
And I'm going to go back to, we talked to our friends, Charles Bishop and Neely. They follow Jackson State football and having dinner with them. I mean, they said this team feels like nobody can score 3 times on them. 3 times. He didn't say if it was 3 field goals, 3 touchdowns. Prairie View has scored twice. Touchdown, field goal. That's how good this defense is. And, whoa, they are as good as advertised. 4th
best in all of FCS.
It got to get to the point where whoever we're doing the broadcast that week of the game, they're going to have to sit down with y'all because y'all know us better than everybody.
Sure.
And y'all know some of the inside stuff
we do.
That I may not tell them because I don't trust them. But
sure. Trust us.
Okay. Trust y'all.
We appreciate that.
We
trust.
appreciate that, Coach.
Much love, baby.
Hey, it's Warren Sapp, number 99 in your program, number 1 in your heart. Whenever I look for Jackson State or Coach Prime information, I go to the Pregame Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and for all those who's listening and watching it from around the world. And we are now live from the corner of Dalton and Lynch Street. It's the show where we take you inside the game before the game begins. It's the Pregame. With your host, Charles Bishop and Neely. So get ready because we pregame harder than the other show's party. It's the Pregame.
And welcome into the Wednesday night edition of the Pregame Show. It is Bishop, it is Neely, post-Celebration Bowl. And Neely, let me start here. Congratulations to the North Carolina Central Eagles on winning the Celebration Bowl, winning the national championship. They played one tremendous game. You take your hats off to them. Classy fans. I tell you what, it was a tremendous game. Tigers didn't go out on the high note that we were hoping for, but it was still a tremendous season.
Man, instant classic as it relates to that game. You know how you have those ESPN games that they rerun as instant classics? You know, to have a bowl game to go into overtime, ABC, you know, couldn't have asked for a better production, man. So what a game it was. But rewinding from that, Chuck, just what a season it was. I think effective about week 8 or 9, The Tigers continue to just add to the record books. 8-0, 9-0, 10-0, 11-0, 12-0 with the conference championship. Finished the season 12-1 with that bowl game lost in the Celebration Bowl. But in my mind, that does not erase or negate the history that was made for this fall 2022 season, man. 12-0 with the conference championship, 12-1 counting that bowl game, and what a game it was.
What a game it was, and you mentioned it, another conference championship. We came up short in the Celebration Bowl, but I tell you what, I thought the team's preparation going into the Celebration Bowl this year was completely different as opposed to last year. Sometimes you just come up short, and that's what happened in this particular game.
That's what she said. Come up short. Chuck, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Everybody is saying that it was distractions that cost the Tigers their victory. Distractions in the announcement of Coach Prime and his departure from Jackson State to Colorado, and that had a play in the outcome of the game. But I'll tell you this, as a person who was at practice the 2 weeks leading up to the bowl game, as a guy that was in team meetings leading up to the bowl game, these guys were much, much more focused than they were compared to the regular season, and definitely more focused than they were compared to the bowl game last year. I think, when you're dealing with anything, everything has something to do with it. This team has been through water crisis, been through tornadoes, been through power outages, you name it, been through food shortages on campus, been through a pandemic. I mean, you name it, and have persevered. I'm just not buying into that announcement is the reason we lost. I just think we tried to do too much, that we had particular players that were not aligned, not doing their assignment or their technique, and the wheels start to come off. When you look at this game, man, totally dominated in time of possession. And for a team to rush for nearly 300 yards, if you round it up, it really just kept the offense off the field and the defense on the field too much. But I know we're going to get into all of that quarter by quarter and outcome of the game. Hey, Chuck, it's postseason, but it's pre-Christmas, man. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas to you as well, brother. Happy holidays. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Kwanzaa to our fans as well. Merry Christmas.
You putting the Black and Black College Sports Network. I told you Merry Christmas. You said you hit me back with Happy Kwanzaa. What about Hanukkah to our Jewish friends out there? Just do it all.
Hit them all. Hit them all. Exactly. Hit them all. Man, let's get into the breakdown of this game. A tremendous game. North Carolina Central came out on top 41-34, as we always do. We kind of take a quarter by quarter breakdown of it. 49,000 in attendance at this Celebration Bowl. Tremendous atmosphere, tremendous festivities leading up to the bowl game. And the game itself, it was, like you said, an instant classic. Let's take a look at it. North Carolina Central, they take the opening kickoff, and they go 7 plays, 60 yards, and they're able to put points on the board as they were able to move the ball downfield.
Yeah, they were able to put points on the board. And it was one of those instances where you looked up and you're like, oh, man, they're about to score and do something no team has done before, scoring the first drive, end up getting a field goal out of it. And I think one of the things that kind of shook us being the Tiger football team, was not that they scored, but on our first possession, we did the 3-and-out thing and didn't get anything out of it. So that was already setting the tone for the defense being out there more than they should have, could have, would have, more than they have been in the past 12 games leading into that game.
You mentioned it. We go 3-and-out. Then I believe there's a turnover there in the first quarter. Travis Hunter with the fumble set North Carolina Central up in great field position. They go 4 plays, 67 yards, and they are able to punch it in on a Davius Richard touchdown. 10-0 is your score early here in the first quarter.
Yeah, and you called it. I mean, a turnover. A fumble. Chuck, I'm not looking at the stats in front of me, but I think we fumbled every game this year. It's like I think we fumbled every game this year. And at some point, you are what you do, and you do what you are. And we consistently have turned the ball over. And there were games in the past that, of course, being 12-0, you were able to overcome that. But that was a stolen possession there, and really almost like 2 stolen possessions. We always put our defense on the field first. They're able to get 3 points. We go 3-and-out. They're able to get 7 points, and then that's off of a turnover. So 3 and out and a turnover. That's 2 possessions that we didn't get anything going. And the key to Tigers taking the wheel out of their opponents is starting fast, and that took away the fast start.
That did take away the fast start. North Carolina Central, they jump out 10-0 early. Jackson State, they're able to come back on the next possession, as we've watched all season, that when this team gets pushed, they push back. They go 4 plays, 64 yards. Shedeur Sanders, he finds DJ Stevens. DJ Stevens has been a tremendous revelation from the tight end position this past season. He gets the Tigers on the board. Extra point is good. Score is 10-7.
And I wish the fans could have seen that play in practice because it was a one-hander by DJ at practice. And DJ and I had breakfast game day morning, and I said, man, it is what it is. If you don't see it in practice, you're not going to see it in the game. And will we see the one-hand grab? He said, well, that was out of necessity. Hopefully I'll be able to get both hands on it. So that same play that was worked on in practice over at Georgia Tech was the first one that got us on the board. And you're exactly right. DJ Stevens from the tight end position, local Jackson area kid, was able to get us on the scoreboard. And all season long, Chuck, particularly juxtaposed to the 2 Coach Prime seasons in the past, the fall and that COVID spring, really got a lot out of the tight ends this year, not just blocking.
No doubt about it. Shout out to DJ's parents. Tremendous job in terms of their support of DJ all season. One of my guys, Wayne Stevens. Jackson State they go on the attack again. This time, Shedeur Sanders. He steps up in the pocket. He finds a streaking Kevin Colvin, 85-yard touchdown pass. The Tigers go on top 14-10.
Hopping ahead when I say this, man, when you look at the impact that Kevin Coleman had on this game, the impact that Shedeur Sanders had on this game, the impact that Travis Hunter had on this game, and as we're sitting here today on the early National Signing Day period, and to think about the impact that those guys brought to Jackson State University, and for it to show up in a bowl game and show up early. I know we're going to get to the second quarter, but I think what was Shedeur like 13 or 14 by the time we went to halftime.
Really hot.
Just phenomenal numbers and productions coming from the offense. But it was the defense that really now at this point was starting off slow and really giving up scores, every other possession or so.
Yeah, and as we transition now to the second quarter, and I noticed this, and normally when we get that lead, that's when the defense sort of takes over. But you take your hat off North Carolina Central in regards to a drive that they had here in the second quarter. They go 11 plays, 6 minutes and 50 seconds off the clock, 75 yards. They punch it in. Jamari Taylor with a 10-yard run for North Carolina Central. Central goes back on top 17-14. And that was, I think, a very pivotal drive because it showed that Central was more than willing to answer the beck and call, if you will, of the Jackson State offense. They were going to be in this game.
Take names, places, teams, logos, mascots out of it. If I tell you that one team had the ball 38 minutes and the other team 21 minutes, if I tell you one team had no turnovers and rushed for almost 300 yards, you're going to bet 100 out of 100 times that team won. Now, this game ended up going into overtime, and it was a nail-biter, an instant classic, like I said before. But when you look at the time of possession and how NCCU dominated the run game and our defense just couldn't stop the run and get off the field, it's amazing that it went into overtime. And it really shows how this team is built to withstand these kind of punches, because statistically from the run analysis and from the time, this game looked on paper like it was 35-10, but the Tigers not only the game had the lead at halftime.
No doubt had the lead at halftime. We take a look, moving along here in the second quarter, Jackson State, they're able to answer that North Carolina Central drive. They go 9 plays, 85 yards, only 3 minutes and 11 seconds off the clock, but they go back on top 21-17. Shedeur Sanders showing his elusiveness, getting open and being able to score on the run. Touchdown Jackson State, 21-17 is your score at this point.
Yeah, 21-17, took that 21 points into the half. Shedeur at halftime was 30 of 40. I'm sorry, the end of the game was 30 of 40 with 4 TDs. But you kind of got the sense, the way we regained that offensive momentum going into halftime, that we were going to run away with the game in the third quarter. Of course, that didn't happen, but momentum was clearly on the Tiger side in the second quarter and going into the halftime.
21-17 is your score at halftime. Jackson State gets the ball back after halftime, a quick 3 and out. And at this point, North Carolina Central, they get the ball and they go 12 plays, 87 yards, 7 minutes, 21 seconds off the clock. They go back on top, nearly 23-21.
And that particular drive early in the third quarter, after a 3 and out, that's when you saw statistically bearing into the game that these guys are really, they have the momentum, because anytime in college football you can do a 7 to 8 minute drive and get points out of it, it puts the other team in a different dynamic and scheme than what they came in prepared to run. Man, hats off to NCCU for executing their game plan. It was that old, when you played the Patriots when they had Brady, or you played the Colts when they had Peyton, the best way to beat them is to keep those guys on the bench, to keep the offense off the field. And the methodical drives that they were doing running the ball, their run game was phenomenal.
Pivotal point here in this third quarter. Jackson State, another short drive. They punted to North Carolina Central. North Carolina Central, the Jackson State defense, they're able to answer the call, get that offense off the field. But right in here, North Carolina Central with a huge fourth down execution where it was a fake punt and they were able to get downfield. They were able to turn that into 3 points. Adrian Olivo, 21-yard field goal. They go 6 plays, 61 yards. Took another 3 minutes and 44 seconds off the clock. But at this point, NCCU 26-21 is your score here in the third quarter.
Man, that fake punt was everything.
It was.
Hey, I mean, what a brilliant play call. What brilliant execution. Reminded me of that Super Bowl with the Saints. You come back after the half and no, you know what? We playing with house money. We're the underdog. If it works, it can be one of those nails in the coffin. If it doesn't work, it's not like it takes us out the game. So it's just something that the Tigers should have been for. And as we caught on to it that it was a fake, the execution was so spot on as far as the run and the route, et cetera. That play right there was one of those plays of the year if you're an NCCU fan.
No doubt about it. 26-21 is your score here at the end of the third quarter. Neil, we got a Donnybrook here going into the fourth quarter. You knew, but I think the feeling for us, at least on the sideline, was Jackson State was going to make plays. They were going to make plays, and you felt like at some point, they were going to do what they had to do to take over this game. I tell you what, we get here in the fourth quarter. Jackson State goes 11 plays, 45 yards, only 3 minutes and 51 seconds off the clock, but Shador finds Travis Hunter, 18-yard touchdown. Jackson State goes back on top, 27-26. 2-point conversion miss, but it felt like the momentum was finally back in our favor.
Yeah, it did feel that way. It felt like, regardless of the stats, again, when you look down at our sheets, Chuck, and you saw how they were just dominating in time of possession, even at halftime, it was overwhelming. They were dominating. So by the time you get to the fourth, they're way up in time of possession. You still never felt that we're going to lose this game. You still never felt like that we were the ones in trouble. They made a couple plays, gambling with house money, but we the big bank over here. So you never felt like we were out of control or out of the game, even with the failed 2-point conversion, which that was just a math call. Sometimes you play the math, again, like I said, about going for that fake punt. It doesn't kill you if you don't get it, but it does a lot of damage if you do get it. So you err on that side and go for it. But to have Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter hook up, everybody in the stadium, everybody on the field is looking at 2 to 12, but you still couldn't stop it. And that was one of those plays. You're like, yeah, we got this. We're here.
No doubt about it. And both teams showing championship medal. They're duking it out. I mean, you take a look at NCCU, they steal momentum. Jackson State comes back, steals momentum back. They're trading blows here, and you knew this thing was going to come down to the final, minutes, the final seconds here in the fourth quarter as we continue to go through. And I thought this was a pivotal drive here. Jackson State goes on top, 27-26. North Carolina Central is able to answer that drive with an 11-play, 73-yard, 6 minutes and 48 seconds off the clock drive. They get a touchdown out of this drive. They go back on top, 34-27. Jackson State now gets the ball with, I believe, 4 minutes and some change left. Everything on the line here, Neil.
Well, just be glad that that drive wasn't 7 seconds longer, because by the time we got the ball and finally able to score and tie the game, it was done on 4th and 10 with 7 seconds on the clock. So if North Carolina Central just used 7 more seconds, we don't even go into overtime. It reminded me of Chuck Bishop versus Neely, 1994 in the Honors Dorm, John Madden. Whoever got the ball last going to win. And for the record, Neely wasn't no honor student, didn't live in the Honors Dorm. I used to hang out there and drink and smoke. But nevertheless, that's what it reminded me of, Chuck, because defense was out the window. You know, neither team was stopping neither team. Whoever had the ball last was going to be in control. And like I said, it comes down to 4th and 10 with 7 seconds left. And Shedeur Sanders finds Travis Hunter for a touchdown. And, of course, that extra point ties the game.
Yeah, and let's go into that drive. I mean, that drive is 15 plays, 81 yards. It took literally all 4 minutes and 28 seconds off the clock. But two things stand out in that drive. There's a 4th and some change. Shedeur scrambles around right in. It looks like, you know, they were the Eagles were going to corner him. He finds J.D. Martin. J.D. Martin makes a leaping grab on, I believe, a 4th and 7. Which was set up, I believe it was 3rd and 17, and Shedeur was able to find Shane Hooks for a big gain, 11-yard gain, sets up a 4th and 7. J.D. Martin makes a tremendous catch to keep that drive going, and subsequently, I tell you what, my heart stopped at the end. Shedeur found Travis in the back of the end zone. I think everybody in the stadium knew where it was going, but they were still able to make the catch with no time left on the clock.
Man, what a pass, what a catch, what a moment to do it in with those two big names, you know, the #1 recruit in the nation, the top quarterback when we got him, when he flipped and came to Jackson State. And so it was almost storybook. I mean, it was reading like a fairy tale. So now you got even more confidence that, we're going to win this game, because there's no way that it's 4th and 10 with 7 seconds left and you score with 0 on the clock and you lose. Like, momentum is clearly on your side. But shout out, man, to J.D. Martin, who hadn't been getting a lot of playing time this season because Savion Wilkerson was doing his thing, and then Tito would come in. But J.D. showed up big on that play. Shane Hook showed up big before that, keeping the drive alive. You know, we remember that 4th and 10 with 7 seconds, but you're right, Chuck, spot on it. The 2 plays leading up to that score are really what put us in that position.
And no doubt about it. And like you said, I know the feeling on the sideline was, you know, we've tied the game, and now comes the defensive stop. Now the momentum is in your favor, and all you can do at this point, and I have to be honest, I take my hats off to Matt Leone, Trey Oliver, the brain trust over at North Carolina Central. They answered the momentum. They get the ball first in overtime, and they were able to punch it in, 1-yard score, Davius Richard, and they were able to take the lead. So now everything is set up for Jackson State to get the ball here in overtime and see what we can do. And I tell you what, go for it.
But even at that point, when they scored, you just know, okay, it's just going to be double overtime. You know, there was nothing about what was executed on our end in the 4th quarter, tying the game up. And even with them scoring first in overtime rules, we get a shot at it. We got to score a touchdown. There was no sense of doubt on that sideline in that Tiger huddle that we were not about to do this. So even then you think, like, okay, well, you know, I hope you didn't book an early flight out of here, because we're going to be here a while. This might go 2 or 3 overtimes because we're not folding. And so then we get the ball and it's our turn.
Yeah, then it's our turn. We had a golden opportunity there. Hayden Hagler in the end zone, ball in and out of his hands. Bless his heart, man. He put everything into this season, and I can only offer, you know, my deepest heartfelt Jackson State love to that young man, because he played his heart out for Jackson State. Came up short there with regards to that catch, but I've seen him make that catch all season. You know.
Yeah, you know, one of the things you talk about playing his heart out. Don't forget that touchdown catch that he made week 1 with FAMU.
In Miami,
he battled through an injury, was in a boot for a while. And one of the key reasons, Chuck, and this is something people don't see, one of the key reasons that we didn't have successful tight end play against us is because of what Hayden does on the scout team for us. You know, giving those great looks at practice, giving the #1 defense all it can handle and showing them a better tight end that they would face on game day. DJ Stevens was, on the field for that same play, and it drew up Hayden's way. But it was one of those sets that, Tim Brewster has come up with where the ball went to the open guy. And, it happens in football, man. I'm a Cowboys fan. I'm a Cowboys fan, and I still remember when the Giants won the Super Bowl as a wild card because Patrick Creighton dropped the ball. I
remember that. Yes.
It happens. It happens on a professional level all the way down to First Baptist Church Flag Football League. It happens. But for people to attack this young man and say that he lost us the game, it's just not true football-wise. If he makes that catch, we still got to make the extra point. It goes into double overtime. You still have to stop them and do it again. You don't know what the outcome of the game was going to be if he makes that catch. But here's what we do know. We know for a fact that you give up almost 300 yards rushing to the other team. You let them have the ball almost 2 times as long as you had it. You turn the ball over and they don't. They get a 4th down conversion and you don't. The game was in their favor well before that young brother dropped that pass. So for people to be out there clowning him, and I get the jokes. I'm cool with the jokes. But when it reaches a level of threats and violence and, you need to transfer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Pure silliness.
That has no place in Tiger Nation, man. And frankly, it's an embarrassment that it even took place.
No doubt about it. You mentioned some stats, and I want to throw this out there. And literally, Neely, we have not seen a team, quite honestly, punch this defense in the mouth. There's no other way to say it. They rushed for 276 net yards against the #1 team in #1 defensive team in FCS. We just hadn't seen it. There's no other words that can say it.
And, if you go to the Pregame Show YouTube channel, you will see where we posted the scouting report from the defensive staff. And NCCU didn't do anything that this team did not get prepared for from a coach's standpoint. We just failed to execute. And I know there's a lot of chatter out there about we were missing players. And I say name them, and people will throw some names out there. But the guys who hopped in the portal were not starters or major contributors to this defense. Yes, they added some depth in places. But, when you look at a Katron Evans at the end of the portal or a Josh Griffith's Big Country into the portal, these are not guys that were leading the team in tackles or sacks, that kind of thing. You were missing True Thompson and Niles Gaddy for decisions and actions of their own. These were not coaches' decisions. So we were short those 2 guys. But even short those 2 guys, man, giving up 276 on the ground, allowing that much time of possession. This team defense is based around and built what Dennis Thurman motto is: prevent points. We failed to prevent points. We failed to get off the field on 3rd down. And that's what put us in the position of overtime in the first place.
Yeah, we take a look at the tail of the tape, individual stats. Shedeur Sanders, you talk about going out on your shield, 30 of 40, 349 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. Kevin Coleman, the freshman, 7 catches, 137 yards. Shane Hook, 7 catches, 70 yards. Travis Hunter, 4 catches, 47 yards and 2 touchdowns. DJ Stevens, 3 catches and a touchdown. Dallas Daniel had 3 catches in this game. I mentioned J.D. Martin with a huge catch in this game.
But Chuck, give me that big number, man. Give me that time of possession. Give me Jackson State. Give me Jackson State's time of possession versus NCCU's time of possession.
Yeah, let me get to the time of possession because I thought that was a huge thing in this game. And of course, when you're looking for it, you can't find it. But I'll find it here in a second. But
I got it. I was deferring to the stat man. It is NCCU 38 minutes 9 seconds. Jackson State 21 minutes 51 seconds. 38 minutes to 21 minutes time of possession.
So undoubtedly, I think this is the first time all season that I thought I saw the defense winded or gas toward the end of the game.
Chuck, how are you not?
Yeah.
Time of possession is not a defensive stat. It's an offensive stat. It means the other team's offense had the ball. They had the ball 38 minutes. 38 minutes, Chuck. They had the ball 38 minutes. That's a lot of time for the defense to be out there. And you know, when you deal with statistics, median, mode, mean, you know me, Chuck, I took it 4 times. It's 2 parts. I had to take both of them twice. So I know this stuff. I don't know. Jack Stadium taught me nothing. It taught me that. At some point, whatever you're good at, you're going to have an anomaly where you're bad at it. You know, I don't care if it's an assembly line right up here at Canton and Nissan. At some point, a part is going to come off the car. You know, it's part of the process. You do something 100 times, you know, you're going to get it right 98. 2 anomalies are going to appear. This defense for Jackson State has showed up 12 games. And I would say to you, Chuck, that on more times than not, it was the defense who won us the game and not the offense. It was the defense taking their offense production totally away. It wasn't just us scoring points, because you know we had some nail biters, we had some momentums, we had some games that could have gone either way, even though we were undefeated. But our defense all year long did the damn thing. But when you're out there for damn near 40 minutes of a 60-minute game,
gonna wear you out.
And it's 13 games in now, and you're playing a team that's been off for a month.
Great point.
But Chuck, those are not excuses. We got to ask kick. We lost the game. Hats off to NCCU, because I don't want nobody to try to chop up with Neely saying and make like he got crocodile tears or something, and it's saying that they didn't beat us. We just lost. No, they beat us. They won the game. No. They came in with a sound game plan. They executed that game plan. We failed to execute ours. And even in that imperfection on our end, was still able to force overtime. But when you look at the stats, they won this football game.
No doubt, they won this football game, and I always say this: I'm a big believer in scoreboard. A scoreboard always tells you who the better team was, and on this day, North Carolina Central, they were the better football team. They were deserving, and they got it done. Like I said, this was the first time all year that defense, that Jackson State defense, was hitting the mouth and repeatedly hit in the mouth. So you take your hats off to a masterfully called game plan by Trey Oliver and Matt Leone. When you take a look at some nuances within the game, I thought they did a great job in terms of slowing the game down. If you noticed, they got a lot of good yardage on first downs. It left them in, second and short, third and short, where they were able to just move the ball down.
But that's the crazy part, Chuck. We were tied in first downs. They had 24, we had 24. But that's what I love about your stat, man. You're digging deeper. Yes, we were tied in first downs, but their second downs were second and short. Ours were second and manageable or second and long. We had to work for those first downs. They were getting so many yards on. They were getting so many yards on first down that their entire playbook was open to them for the next 2 downs. By the time we got to second down, and maybe second and 7, where we're passing. Where they're second and 1, they could pass long, short, run the ball, QB sneak, flick, or do anything because they had gained so much on their first and controlling the yards. Man, again, hats off to them, man. What a ball game. For that first of all, to play in a bowl game is a tremendous accomplishment. If you're playing football in December, hats off to you. Mm-hmm. Thousands of college football programs in the nation. And maybe about 150 or so are playing football in December. So hats off to both teams for playing a football game in December. But for those guys to show up, and they were the underdog on paper, we were undefeated. They had an impressive record, 9-2, I think it was. But they came in and they accepted that underdog role, and they did not bow or bend. They said, no, you're in a fight. And I think, Chuck, one of those key momentum, you talked about it earlier, that fake punt, when they kept that drive alive and end up scoring subsequently after that, that was one of those pivotal moments in the game where it's like, they're throwing the kitchen sink.
Right, no doubt. I was tremendously impressed by their ability to answer Jackson State's scoring drives, and that's just something we had not seen all season. Like I said, I think I mentioned it earlier, we have been used to the Jackson State defense sort of taking control of the game. And you only needed an extra possession or two to make sure things stayed the way they stayed with regards to Jackson State controlling the game. And you just take your hats off to them. It was a tremendous game, tremendous atmosphere. I can't be any more proud of my Jackson State football team, but congratulatory of North Carolina Central as well.
Yeah, absolutely, man. 12-1 is that, Chuck. That ain't no accident. That ain't coincidence. That ain't bad news bears just getting it right one time. We won 12 consecutive games in a row, and that 12th one was the conference championship, making it back-to-back SWAC championships for this team, for this recruit class, if you will, that came in together. So for them to come in, not lose a conference game in 2 years. Think about that now. Shedeur Sanders on the quarterback and his compadres that came in with him have never lost to a SWAC opponent, and then won 2 SWAC championships in that process. Did we lose 2 Celebration Bowls in a row? Sure we did. Wish it was different? Absolutely. But it does not erase what it takes to get there in the first place. Because to get to the Celebration Bowl, you got to win your conference. And there's been a lot of people who go to Celebration Bowl in the past, but they didn't get there undefeated in conference. So you cannot allow this sour taste, this outcome of this game, to erase what was 12-0 before with the conference championship. Back-to-back conference championships.
Back-to-back conference championships, and now we pivot, Neely. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Coach Prime, a lot of assistants, players going to Colorado now, and now this Jackson State team we so love now belongs to TC Taylor, and it's about keeping that momentum. 18 games have been won in a row in the SWAC. It's about keeping that momentum going forward. I think today is National Signing Day. So, of course, we're going to get some reports of some guys that have signed with Jackson State. But final analysis, what do you take a look at with regards to this Jackson State football program?
Well, when you say final analysis, I'm going to interpret that as the Coach Prime era. I think that hats off, to Coach Prime, to this coaching staff, to the young men they recruited and coached. You bring in coaches to win football games and to change lives. And that's what happened. He inherited a roster that spring season was still able to do some things. But by the time he and his staff got their first recruitment class in, undefeated in conference, 2 SWAC championships, leading the nation, leading Mississippi in colleges, Mississippi, in graduation rates of football players. You never heard about any junk going on in the streets, like a player was involved in this or that. So just an above the board managed program from bottom to top to bottom. Now, as you turn the page and go to the TC Taylor era, if you watch the pregame show, you already know where Neely and Chuck stand on TC Taylor. We have been singing his praises and in his corner since day one. Keep in mind that fall season, when we first swept the SWAC, he was in control of the offense. And you look at the production that the wide receivers were able to do when he moved to wide receiver coach. And here's something I'll point out about TC. He was brought here years ago under Coach Hendrick as sort of that coach in waiting, like, be on the staff, learn the ropes, you're the next head coach. Well, then Coach Prime arrives and it kind of, moves to the back burner a little bit. And there were literally people out there questioning, is TC Taylor ready for this job? Well, if he was ready 3 years ago, how can he not be ready after 3 years of coaching with Coach Prime and winning back-to-back SWAC championships? So, Chuck, I am looking forward to the TC Taylor era. I think that it's going to be a phenomenal watershed moment in Jackson State history. I believe he's going to be able to recruit. He's already been able to retain talent, which that's something our fans have to understand out there in this new age of college football. This year to year, December through February, this ain't about who you're getting from high school out of the portal. You have to re-recruit your own team. You have to convince guys to stay with you. And to see some of the players who are opting to stay at Jackson State, that's because of TC Taylor and Coach O and the relationship capital that they've built. And I imagine that between tonight, when that final list comes out, all the way to February, the final signing day, you're going to see Jackson State be all right. We're going to be fine. TC Taylor can coach his ass off. I think I hear that we're playing week 0 this year in the SWAC Mid Challenge class, South Carolina State. So we don't move right into the SWAC schedule. That'll be week 1 down in Miami, Eastern Conference, us against FAMU again. But I'm looking forward to the TC Taylor era. I think he has what it takes to coach, recruit. Looking forward to him building that staff, which I know is underway. And he has some names in-house that'll be coming out soon. So it's going to be a great passing of the baton. And here's one thing I said months ago before we knew Coach Prime was leaving. One thing about Coach Prime at the time he was here, we had the distinct advantage of the next coach getting the program from a coach better than that coach found it. So many times in the HBCU space or in the SWAC, you hire a new coach because the other coach was fired, because something went wrong, whether it was losing, whether it's NCAA, whether it's APR, you name it. So now the new guy has to fix all that crap and try to win games. Well, guess what TC Taylor doesn't have to do? He doesn't have to go get a Walmart deal to build a turf field. He doesn't have to go get an Under Armour deal to get new uniforms. He's inheriting a program that was better than when Coach Prime got it. And so that's what you want. You want your programs to be on a crescendo, on a rise. So when you put TC Taylor's skill sets into play with what we have infrastructure-wise, I'm looking for great success this fall. Chuck, it's hard as hell to go undefeated. I am not sitting here saying Jackson State is going to be, 11-0 this fall, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. TC Taylor's going to win some ball games, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhere around 8-3 or 9-2 in his first year.
Yeah, I would not be surprised whatsoever. We both are staunch supporters of TC. We know he will come in and keep this train right on the track. I can't wait to see what he does with his staff, with the players that he brings in, because we both know and understand TC Taylor is a winner. And that's what we want at the head of our program. And I tell you what, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, there's going to be some, and when I say personality changes, this is not a negative or a positive. It just is. We got used to in 3 football seasons with Coach Prime, a lot of emphasis on social media and how social media is used to recruit. And frankly, that kind of thing is just not TC's personality. He's a workhorse. He's a grinder. And so you may see some differences in that kind of style of what's done and shown on social media. But when it comes to the X's and O's of football, when it comes to preparation and being dialed in and recruiting the best players and making sure that they're capable of living up to that Jackson State standard, that high standard that Jackson State football is known for, there's not only not going to be a drop-off, I think there's going to be a rise in it because TC is from the culture. TC is not an outsider. TC played at Jackson State. He's from Mississippi. He always wanted to come back here, coach. He's a product of his HBCU. So there's going to be some things that change in the post-prime era, but there are going to be some things that accelerate in the TC era because they are 2 different personalities.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, I'll tell you what, man, it's been a tremendous season. 12-1. We shared a lot of laughs during the course of this season, and it has been a phenomenal, I think, 3 seasons with Coach Prime. I have to say the work ethic that we watched. Which coincidentally are the 3 seasons of the pregame show.
We started the live pregame show February 21st, 2021, when we played Edward Waters, and Troy Aikman was the first guest. And so these 3 seasons, Chuck, have and we've gone from just live on Saturdays to live on Wednesdays to special segments, you name it. But these past 3 football seasons, compacted into 2 calendar years, have been phenomenal, man. It's been a great ride.
It's been a tremendous ride. I'm going to enjoy playing golf for a couple of weeks here before we get back on the grind again.
Man, it'll be March before you know it. It'll be spring camp. It'll be spring camp before you know it, man.
Yes, indeed. Looking forward to it, man. 12-1. And the players are the memories that I'm definitely going to have with regards to this season. Sharing laughs with Aubrey. My God, the whole defensive unit, the coaches itself. It has been one tremendous ride this 2022 football season. We'll come back next week and we'll put a bow on the entire year that was Jackson State athletics, Jackson State football especially. But this was a special ride, man. I hope people understand it.
Yeah, and it was special, and I hope they understand it. And I appreciate the blessing of being able to be a part of it and covering and chronicling it and making it part of history on YouTube. Because you just think, Chuck, if we could sit back and watch interviews of Jimmy Smith, from 1992, but watching it in 2012, that's the kind of thing that Jackson State athletics with AD Ashley Robinson has been able to accomplish. The stuff that we've been able to chronicle and save and put out there ain't going nowhere. So 10 years from now, when Aubrey Miller is in the league and up for Walter Payton Man of the Year, you're going to be able to go to YouTube and watch what he was saying then refuse to be denied. This shit don't stop like this.
You're right.
So I'm looking forward to, as time moves on, and part of that time means moving on. Y'all back your toes up if they're on the table, because I might step on some. Part of that time moving on is that we got to get over something. I know we're grieving. I know we're mad. I know we're in our feelings, and I'm not judging that and saying somebody's right or wrong. But it's hard to appreciate history while you're in it. You think about Remember the Titans, right?
That's very true.
You remember that movie, Remember the Titans show?
Very much so.
When you watch the movie and Coach Boone made them get off that bus, pivotal point in the movie. I bet it wasn't pivotal the day it happened, though.
Right.
I bet them parents were mad that day. I bet the players were mad that day. 30 years go by and it wins the damn Oscar. Something you once booed becomes something you cheer. So I would say to people, be patient. Even with the players that have left Jackson State, whether it's declaring for the draft or the transfer portal or going to Colorado, the coaches, these guys are forever linked to JSU. No matter how you feel about it right now, they are part of our rich history and legacy. And whatever they do going forward is part of our rich history and legacy. They're always part of Jackson State. Once a Tiger, always a Tiger. I'm just looking forward to how it all shapes out and shakes loose years down the road. And we remember that Coach Prime era and the back-to-back championships. Because keep in mind, Chuck, you see behind me, I got Muhammad Ali up on the wall. I remember a magazine cover, y'all had arrows sticking in them. Then the next thing you know, he's lighting the cauldron at the Olympics.
That's
all
true.
All you need is just a little time to get out your feelings. And then we can appreciate stuff that we were all a part of. And everyone was a part of this rich history in Jackson State football these past 2 seasons. Undefeated in conference, back-to-back SWAC championships.
Could not have said that any better, Neil. I think in due time, we will get through, whatever feelings that we're feeling right now, and we will appreciate this time period, this era that was Coach Prime. So
now Chuck, every time I say something profound, I mess it up with some BS. So here go the mess up.
Go for it.
I have seen brothers walking up and down the street all my life with Alabama shirts on, Georgia shirts on, LSU shirts, God forbid, even Ole Miss shirts on. Nobody says a word. Brother walks into the barbershop the other day with a Colorado hat, and everybody mad at him. Like, what? Hey, man, wait a minute, man. Wait a minute. What? At least he got on a hat that we have some attachment to. Like, a dude walked in behind him with Ole Miss shirt on. Y'all ain't saying nothing.
Oh, boy. I knew you had to do it.
But Chuck, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm crazy.
You ain't wrong. You ain't wrong, man. You ain't wrong.
Man, you don't know nobody from Auburn coaching staff or players from Auburn. But
you got the old hat on.
Yeah, you got the old hat on. Here you actually got a relationship with somebody in Colorado. Like, I ain't wearing that. You know what, man? Just sleep on it. Pray over it over Christmas. Remember the season. In the new year, get out your feelings, and we're going to be okay. Jackson State football is in a better place than it has been. And some of those recent eras that were not ERAs, they were ERRORS, eras. Here we are. And now TC Taylor gets his chance. We should all be just leaning in the foxhole, manning the post, going, get the water, chop wood, whatever it takes to help this brother build this program up higher than it is now. And that means not just recruiting class. That means financial support of the Department of Athletics, especially directed toward football, so he can keep doing the mission at hand. And let's get us a couple more back-to-back championships under TC Taylor.
No doubt. And you touched on it, the pregame show itself. We started roughly 3 seasons ago. And during the course of that, we've changed, stayed linear, if you will, to keep abreast of the times, to keep forward momentum with regards to this program, with regards to this show, and things won't change in that regards either.
No, absolutely not. There's going to be 85% of the pregame show is going to still be the pregame show. But just like the past 3 seasons, 15% is going to change. Change is inevitable. You have to adapt. You have to improvise. You have to overcome. We have different schedules as far as who we're playing on the road. You have different personalities of coaches, and I'm not referring to the head coach, TC Taylor. I literally mean the assistant coaches that are coming on board. So you may not get the information out of the new coach of linebackers that you're used to getting out of Andre Hart. We all, as fans, supporters of the pregame show, have to navigate this new wonderland and take what we can glean from it and share that with the audiences. So there are going to be differences. Anytime things change, and change is okay. It's okay, y'all. Like, it's okay.
No doubt.
Hey, like Allie Love says with the end of them bike rides, you're okay.
No doubt.
I know I just took you 30 minutes at Tabata, but if you can hear me, you're okay. You're okay.
There it is right there, man. No better place to put a bow on this Wednesday show, man. Jackson State 12-1. They come up short in the Celebration Bowl, but again, as we mentioned, SWAC champions, back-to-back SWAC champions, and it was a tremendous season. Don't let the loss in the Celebration Bowl dampen your spirit in regards to this football team. It was a tremendous season.
It was a tremendous season. This is typically the point in the show that Chuck tosses it to me to say something lewd and crude as we get out of here. But to help me remember the reason for the season, I position the home studio so the crossover Capitol Towers be behind me. And Chuck, for the first and only time in 2022, I'm not going to end it with some sexual innuendo or double entendre. I'm just going to say Merry Christmas. And we're going to see you next week, and I'll tell you Happy New Year. But y'all see the cross back there, which I don't know what you're leaning. There it is. So nothing, Chuck, don't try to say, hey, pardon thoughts. I'm not saying nothing about wet, nothing about something going in something. I ain't making no kind of references like that. We are going to remember the reason for the season, Chuck.
No doubt about it. With that being said, Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas from the Pregame Show. Merry Christmas from Black College Sports Network. We'll see you next Wednesday as we wrap up the 2022 year. It's Bishop, it's Neely, and we out of here.
You still thought it was coming. I know you thought it was coming. I know you saw. I know you did.